Have you ever met a really intelligent person who didn't really know how smart they were? What was your experience with them? We have a paid summer internship program for juniors and seniors pursuing construction management degrees. 5 years ago we had a young woman who came into the program in her junior year. She was very tiny in stature and very quiet, but we soon learned giant in intellect and loud where it counted. The way we operate is each intern will spend 3 weeks on a different project, learning a different role within the organization. 3 weeks on site as a superintendent intern, 3 weeks on site with safety, 3 with project management, and 3 on site with quality control. After each period, I received a call praising her ingenuity and ability to adapt and improvise in any situation. At the end of the internship, we have a plus delta review of their performance, and based on that review, we make a determination on whether to offer them a place the following summer. In the case of a senior, we determine if we want to extend them a full-time employment offer. Every review she received from each department all said the same thing: hire her now. We extended an offer for a salaried position, part-time, from that point through her senior year, along with tuition reimbursement. This young lady still amazes everyone every single day. She is 25 years old, making an amazing salary and absolutely dominating any project she is given. If she does not know it today, she will practically be an expert tomorrow. She is incredibly impressive. I can see her having my job one day, operations director. Hopefully, it is after I retire. Good on you guys for seeing her talent and reimbursing her for it. I've seen a lot of great candidates get away because the company isn't willing to treat an entry-level candidate to their qualities besides being a new grad, and for not feeling threatened by talent. So many people refuse to in case they take your job. Criminal defense lawyer here. Had a client who was a low-level drug dealer and gun runner. Most street-level guys have a very different type of intelligence that doesn't translate well to the white-collar world. Many of my clients ask to read case law. I've only met one who could read it, digest it, and discuss it intelligently with me. This guy, he'd do his own research from the jail, which isn't in common. But this guy did it well and would actually send me relevant cases that were helpful to the issues in his case. And when I explained to him why some were not helpful, he got it, asked good questions, and used that discussion to inform future research. There are a lot of inmates who consider themselves jailhouse lawyers. This guy was smart enough to actually be one. I think about him a lot and wonder what his life would have been like if he was fortunate enough to be afforded with the same opportunities during childhood that I enjoyed. This story is quite sad to read. I hope he can meet his potential someday. If you want to read a happier version of this story, take a look at Professor Sean Hopwood at Georgetown Law. The guy, from prison and with zero formal legal training, penned 2 petitions for certiorari that were granted by the US Supreme Court. Just one cert petition being granted is a huge career-making accomplishment for any actual trained attorney. So to have a guy who taught himself the law in a prison law library do it twice is absolutely bonkers. He has since been released, graduated from law school, and is now a professor at Georgetown. Just so everyone knows, getting a professorship at Georgetown is a really big deal. Georgetown is a premier law school and is among the T14 law schools. Hopwood could have gone into private practice and could have easily made $500K, but he chose to teach instead. People who are great teachers without actually being a teacher. I have always thought people who can teach others are incredibly smart because they are aware enough of what they know to present it to others in such a way they can understand it. The guy I used to work with was a phenomenal teacher of all things paints, powder coating and color matching blending. He had a real passion for it, and it showed in the manner in which he taught and demonstrated what he was talking about. In saying that, he was also very highly strung and had some mental health issues that held him back from doing great things, and so believed he was an idiot. He was not, but no amount of telling him would help. I was always taught that the best way to learn something is to try and teach it to someone else. If you can put the concepts into new words to explain it to someone else, you will have understood it properly, and trying to do so is a great way to embed the knowledge in your mind. That was something that was taught in martial arts. Once you get your black belt, that's when the real learning begins. It is one thing to copy replicate what your teacher is doing. It is another to explain why it works and figure out why what someone else is doing is not working and apply it to different physiques. This is what I was taught as well. I taught karate after getting my first black belt for 6-7 years. It has been almost 10 years since I have set foot in the dojo to train or teach. But I swear that teaching cemented what I knew in my mind. To this day I can remember and even demonstrate teach nearly everything I learned. Pretty crazy it has that kind of sticking power in my mind. I wish differential equations stuck around as long as those throws. But honestly, when I'm preparing for exams, I like to help other people study and explain concepts to them. Even this kind of teaching helps me cement ideas and processes in my mind. Now with covered, I guess I need to pretend to teach concepts to someone as I study like the poster below me does. My dad grew up believing he was dumb and would never amount to anything. His teachers all hated him, and the first time he went to university he was kicked out. Around the same time as I started university, my mum finally convinced him to try again, to get a higher education himself. He has often said that he is too stupid to go back to school, but he speaks about 6 languages fluently, has so many new interesting history facts that whenever we watch any movie we always have to pause at least 4 times for a lengthy discussion about it. And he remembers more book quotes than anyone I have ever met. He grew up in communist Hungary and East Germany, and he has since then climbed mountains and been scuba diving in the Atlantic among a bunch of other adventures. Whatever the discussion, he has got a story to tell. He is the coolest dad ever. But for as long as I can remember, my family has struggled financially since he could not get a job that paid enough. It makes me so happy that he is finally reaching his full potential now at 51 years old. And we are all super proud of him. He dreams of being a teacher. One day, he will be the best teacher his future students could ever wish for. This is so wholesome. Even as a stranger, I am proud of your dad. I had a kid in my class that never took anything seriously, skipped class, brought alcohol to class, and did numerous other things. You name it, he probably did it. But man, that MF knew his shit whenever he paid attention. He understood things when other people were struggling to learn whatever was being taught that day: math, science, English, reading, etc. It makes me a little sad because he was always a troublemaker. But deep down I knew that he was very smart and was capable of doing good in school. He just never chose to do it. Or generally just didn't he care. I don't know at this point. I think he got involved with the wrong crowd early on, unfortunately. Edit: I was a classmate. I typed this late at night when I was tired. Did not think to clear that up, lol. In my college dorm, we had a kid who took pride on how rarely he was sober. He skipped class regularly and just did not care in general, but got perfect scores on practically every test he took. So I'm sure he knew he was very intelligent, he just did not know what to do with his intelligence. Eventually, he gave up on drinking, ended up triple majoring, and still graduated early. Last I heard, he is living happily in a cabin in the woods somewhere. Sounds like he is winning life. That or writing a manifesto and building bombs. Former co-worker of mine. He came to Germany as a refugee in his young teenage years. Had trouble in school due to language barrier, poor support, tough family situation, typical refugee problems. Then he was unemployed, and job center part of German welfare dealing with unemployment sent him to the security company I worked at that time, because conditions of employment are almost non-existent in this field. When he was on my team for an event, I as team leader had to show him the ropes. The event lasted 10 consecutive nights and we faced several different challenges that were part of the job. Every now and then he had a genius idea how to solve the particular problem. The following year I got him on my team whenever I could, trained him, and when I left the company he inherited my position as team leader. I do not actually know whether he knew about how smart he is, but he was so insecure in the beginning I boldly assume he did not. It is hard not to feel stupid when there is a language barrier. Even if you are smart, when you struggle to communicate what should be simple or basic things you just feel slow. It is hard for other people not to think of you as stupid. I can see growing up with that constant negative feedback from others wearing on you like emotional abuse. But whether he believed it or not, I imagine the source of the issue was external. When I did a cultural exchange trip, people treated me like a moron. My cousin was in country doing an English teaching job, and he visited with some of his old language texts as a gift, I shit you not. My host family was offended that I used them instead of the baby's first alphabet books they made me buy with my own money. Because of that experience, I will always err on the assumption of a language barrier issue over a person's intelligence. I eventually got traded to an experienced host family with more empathy and intelligence, which was amazing, and sadly too short-lived. But for an example, imagine a host mother who does not respect the language barrier, who is clearly pissed about when you are coming home at night. But when you ask when she wants you home, she gives you the abridged works of William Shakespeare. So I'm drawing a clock in digital and analog, asking just tell me a number, but she still recites her entire daily planner in cut time. When I was in uni, I took part in a project called Inside Out, where we would go in a prison and have criminology lessons with the inmates whom we called inside students. We didn't teach them or observe them, we were all learning together, and this one guy was just a genius. He had this way of describing a phenomenon he'd noticed and thought about without realizing that it was an actual theory that existed. Like we'd studied them in class, so we knew about them. But he would just come up with it from personal experience. From labeling theory to functionalism, he would just outline them like he'd thought of them in the shower. It was extraordinary. He was also a bit unstable and prone to bursts of anger, often towards himself. He seemed to become frustrated very easily if he couldn't explain or understand something perfectly, and one day he stopped showing up. I ended up talking to the guards, who told me that he felt like he was too stupid for the class. Seriously, he was convinced that we were all smarter than he was and that he wouldn't be able to keep up. I don't know if they ever did, but we asked the guards and a few inside students if they could tell him that we loved studying with him, that he was starting really interesting discussions, and that his observations always made us think more deeply, that his presence made the class better. And just to be clear, I don't mean to say that he was smart for someone in prison. He was a genius. Everyone but him knew that he was by far the most intelligent person in the room. But he didn't see it. We were told that they would ask if he could participate the following year. I hope he did. I feel like people should be more aware that it is normal to struggle and feel stupid while learning new concepts. Then, they'd be less discouraged and less likely to give up. This can be the curse of being highly intelligent. Never having to put much time or effort into learning something is great until a subject comes along that requires it. Then, all those people who learned how to work hard to understand something keep going, and the highly intelligent person has a challenge she has never seen before, and either has to totally change his her study habits, life habits in his her late teens or 20s, or determine that she is not smart enough. Either way, there will be a crisis of confidence, and lessons that should have come early come really late. That happened to me in college. In high school I was a big fish in a little pond. At the college I attended, Harvey Mudd. The pond was not any bigger, but the fish sure were. It is quite a shock to the system to go from I can excel at any of this stuff without putting much work into it. Does not matter how much work I put in. My brain is simply not good enough to understand this subject. My mother. She was raised in a poor abusive family and left school very early to escape. Even now she lines say how she is uneducated, which is true, but she ain't stupid. She raised a bunch of us without much money and was always resourceful and canny at making ends meet. She can do fairly complicated math in her head, does extensive research before making large purchases, forwards me screenshots of quite sophisticated scam emails, and tells me why they're fake. She is 78 now and has always embraced new tech. Has no trouble using her smartphone or her PC. She even troubleshoots for her neighbors. She still lives in the same poverty-stricken area we grew up in and is often helping her neighbors advocate for themselves, writing letters, telling them who to contact and what to say. She is also a keen observer of humans. She sees them as they are and takes them as they are with no judgment. She was always progressive for her time and passed down zero racism or other prejudices to us kids. I wonder what she could have done if she had the opportunities she made damn sure we had. Edit so many awards. Thanks guys. I am gonna show this to my mum so she can see all these lovely responses. Your description is very like my grandma. She passed away 2 years ago at 81. 8th grade education, which was normal at the time for the area because her parents were farmers. At one point she worked a sewing job where they were paid by the piece, and grandma worked so fast that they changed the rule and started paying by the hour because she was earning too much money. She ran their dairy farm plus corn and soybean fields, cattle, pigs, chickens, etc. and all the equipment, often paying additional hired help. Grandpa did not really know how to manage the books, so grandma did it all. After they retired she had a smartphone before I did. She also had a huge 90s desktop computer and printer. One time, probably about 5 years or so ago, we were playing cards and she pulled out these nice professional looking scoring sheets I thought she must have purchased somewhere. Nope. Turns out she made them and figured out how to scan copies. I did not even know she had a scanner. When I told her, I was surprised. She was annoyed at me and was like, "Hey, I know how to do stuff. I do this and this for the neighbors and for this, that and the other thing." Ranting about her computer savvy. I had no idea and I was like, "Grandma, do you know I'm pretty sure my mom could not do some of the stuff you are talking about." She also had plenty of stories about identifying and thwarting scammers, especially the door-to-door kind. She liked to smile and waste their time, and then when she refused to buy into whatever they were selling and they got angry, she would play dumb and offended and laugh about it later. She was also progressive in a very heavily conservative area. Man, I miss her. I don't know you, but man, I want more stories of grandma now. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.